Good morning, writers. I hope you're feeling great today. I sure am. Today, I want to teach you a few things. First, I want to talk to you about something all fiction writers know. It's not enough to have good ideas for stories, which many of you do, but to make the 2D ideas become 3D, those stories need to come to life. You see, fiction writers can make this happen by asking, is there evidence in my story's events? Does my writing show, not tell? And then we need to write it out. We need to make sure that we tell the story at certain points, bit by bit. At other points in the story, we need to move the action along. So as writers, it's kind of like we're driving a car, and we could decide um, the the reader is like the passenger in our car, and we get to decide how fast we go or how slow we go. And we need to be able to manipulate that time for the reader. So, a few things I want to talk to you about today. First is how do we build that conflict? How do we raise the tension in the conflict in the stories? And again, that's kind of like where we add more details to show more about the conflict. And here's some tips on doing that. So, first of all, for raising tension in your stories, you want to think about increasing the obstacles or the difficulty of the obstacles. And we talk about making the conflict more difficult to resolve. Make it more challenging for the character to act. You can create a time crunch for the character where they have to make a choice in a certain amount of time. You can raise the character's motivation. You can also add an element of danger in some situations. Obviously, that doesn't make sense in all stories. And on conflict itself, here's just some tips that are very important. I'm going to share this document with you. Create characters who don't like each other. Make characters who don't get along have to be together in situations. Highlight family relationships and tensions, and that's always something that is money in the bank when it comes to conflicts. Develop inner conflict, wanting two different things, wanting one thing, wanting something else. Tough choices where they both seem bad or someone's going to get hurt. Introducing a romance or a crush, and developing a character's conflict with the environment, that struggle to survive or struggle to adapt. All of these work really well, but they're not going to work for every story. So it's up to you, the writer, to make those choices as to what's going to work best for you. Now, like I said, sometimes we want to move the story along fast and we do more summarizing. And sometimes we want to tell it bit by bit and really, really reveal that conflict and that tension in the conflict. I want to share with you one more thing before we look at the model, and that's something that I shared with you on Google Docs or on Google Classroom. It's a transitions document. And here's just a huge resource of different transitions for you to refer to and use in your story to show that passage of time when necessary. You notice the ones at the top here, all of a sudden, suddenly, the next day, later, the next morning. All of these work really well to show that passage of time, and you get to decide how you finish that transition. And then I have a whole bunch of basic transitions for you to look at, some of which would work well in a story, some of them work well in other types of writing. But please refer to that transitions doc to help you move your story along. Now, looking at the model, this is the part that we've read already, the intro, where we find Jeff looking at himself in the mirror and deciding, he had to make some changes, especially in regards to how he treated his friends. So I just want to look at a few parts here. First off, after the intro, or after the lead, we start out, so he saw finally a glimpse of his own true self. The next few weeks, time really flew by. So here's an example of a part where I summarized to move time forward. I didn't need to bit by bit tell that story of those next few weeks. Here's some summary for you. Jeff's mom was able to be home a little more, and Jeff managed to improve his schoolwork, which had taken a nosedive when the divorce hit. His dad missed 2 out of 3 Wednesdays, and on the weekends he was supposed to have them, usually had some excuse. One weekend, here's another transition. So here we sped up, and now we're slowing down to one weekend, but we're gonna tell a little bit more. Jeff sat in his dad's living room watching TV for the entire visit. His dad was either on the phone or on his computer constantly. Now here I made a choice. I could have really stretched out this weekend, but I didn't want to. I wanted to get to the after the weekend. I wanted to get to the part where how did that affect Jeff? And how did that raise the tension for his conflict? Now, obviously, now we're looking at conflict between a family relationship, tension there, and something that's going on with Jeff and how he's seeing his parents' divorce and his relationship with his father. But getting back to it, so his dad was either on the phone or on his computer constantly. So his mom asked, "How was the weekend?" Here we're slowing down a little bit. Mom asked Sunday as Jeff walked through the door of his home. No response, just the shuffling of Jeff hanging his puffy gray winter coat in the closet. So this no response is showing Jeff's frustration. Okay. "Jeff," she continued, "did you hear me?" "Fine, Mom," he finally spit out. Even the language here, spit out, is showing that Jeff is in a bad mood right now. "Really?" She walked toward him from the kitchen. "Did something happen?" she asked. "No, nothing happened. Nothing at all. We didn't do anything. It sucked." Jeff's voice cracked. He brushed past his mom, stormed into his room, and dove into his bed. All of this action is Jeff showing how upset he is. He didn't say, "Mom, I'm really upset." Instead, he's just showing it through what he's saying and his body language. A knock at the door interrupted his spinning thoughts. "Honey, maybe you should talk to him about it," his mom's voice suggested through the door. "That will never happen," Jeff retorted loudly. As the next few months brought much of the same disappointment, it never did. So I want you to take note of a few things here. First of all, I'm doing some telling to move the action along here after the lead. And then I'm also doing some showing just to kind of like, here's a little moment that demonstrates some of this tension, some of this conflict that's going on with Jeff. And also maybe a little bit more when we say, as the next few months brought much of the same disappointment, it never did. Once again, I'm summarizing what's been going on rather than showing those little moments, and then kind of slowing down at the moments that I'm picking and choosing that are the important ones. You can see how the next segment starts, and we'll look forward on this on another date here. But spring rolled around, and when Jeff's mom asked who he wanted to invite for his birthday, Jeff shook his head and said, "No thanks, Mom, not this year." So here I am already thinking about what I view as the climax of the story, but I'm summarizing it. I'm moving it forward. Spring rolled around. Again, thinking about those transitions and how to move forward and manipulate time in your stories. So a couple things to think about, readers, is how to raise tension and create great conflict in your stories, how to really amp up that suspense and tension, and also how to manipulate time using those transitions and really just driving the vehicle of your story. I hope this has been fruitful for you today, and have a great time writing. Thank you.